broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Wepa.
Wepa, what does that mean?
It's just like, I don't know, like excitement, like a word of excitement, like, hey, get it, da-na-na-na, hey.
I forgot. Yeah, what is that?
This is Colombian salsero. His name is Joe Arroyo. He, rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago. Okay. But he is just one of the most infamous salsa dancers in the salsa culture.
I love it. And they did some salsa tonight. So welcome you AfterBuzzers to AfterBuzz TV. If you haven't already done so, please go to youtube.com/AfterBuzz TV and make sure you leave a comment with the hashtag ABTVJTV. That stands for Jane the Virgin. And we are talking about episode number 16, right?
Chapter 16.
Chapter 16.
Yes, ma'am.
And I am your girl, Madison Chase, your trainer to the stars and the star in you. And I'm also a voice of virginity. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this show, because I love everything about this show, because it speaks to my virginity too in loving Jane. But you could check me out on Twitter at Madison Chase Fit.
And you can find me all on Twitter as well at Stephanie Giorgi, and on Instagram at SteffiG47. So tonight was incredible. What did you think?
I love this episode. I always love, the writers are so incredible when it comes to really having authentic relationships, conversations, like they all fall in line with all of the characters. Like you're never second guess, that person wouldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah, like you totally think this is what that person would do.
Mm-hmm. Which I have to say that that's why I loved what Anthony Mendez said last week, which was one of our guests that we had on the show. He is the narrator for Jane the Virgin, and he was saying that what the writers do so well is that they don't compromise the characters.
They don't.
And it's helpful because honestly, there are so many parts in this episode that, and specifically towards the end, that literally my heart like dropped and I felt like it was happening to me.
Yes.
And it's so funny just because you really do know something's fake and it's just a show and this and that, but at the same time you fall in love with the story and you're afraid for it to go in a way that you didn't want it to go.
Yes. Yeah. Anyways. I know what you're speaking of.
Exactly. Why don't we bring it right back up to the top and start with that flashback?
Yes.
And I like to say that salsa, I like that they used salsa to incorporate her romanticism, because I think that salsa is absolutely a romantic genre of music.
Flamingo,
you know,
the whole,
absolutely.
Like, Latin culture is just so passionate when it comes to so many things when you're talking about love and relationship and marriage. Yes,
the way that you dance, the way that you move, the way that they hold each other. It's
even the hands. Like I noticed when she had her hands, like it was kind of like this, like, you know, like a sigh kind of moment because you're so breathless because you're so in love.
Absolutely. Yes. I loved it.
Yeah. And I love that she said, for me, my first love was dance. And for that to be her first love, I'm like, I so get it, because you fall in love with how expressive dancers are, and you see that emoting when people say, oh, they're emoting or whatever, but you see that and you feel that as a dancer, and that was the thing that I loved about dance. Mainly the music, like the music makes you move,
of course,
and the music and the beat makes you feel that energy for love. So I totally get that.
And I also like that she said that, because when she says her first love was dance, because she is the innocent Jane that we love. And when she says that was her first love, it's because it's the first time. I want to say that when anyone says my first love or the first anything, it's because it was the first time as a human that you were able to identify a feeling that you had, something that was passionate and not just over your head. You know, as a kid, we can be angry and have like your typical sentiments, but to truly, I feel like without knowing the word, at that moment she knew what passion was.
Yes.
Because the first time, my first love was what, you know, the movies, cinema was my first love, because it was the first time I was ever inspired, even as a little kid.
Right.
But yeah, that was so good. And then,
but even in that flashback, I know you were getting ready to move on, but in that flashback, she saw a little disappointment when she saw the salsa guy with the salsa lady with the churro guy. And so her mom and abuela kind of said, no, that's her evil twin. Right. So they kind of already embraced her in this, you know, telenovela world. Like, no, love is a fairy tale sometimes. To save her from not being exposed to those feelings of being disappointed in love. So I love that they kind of made her not really experience that disappointment so early.
But it was also nice for us to see that she did see, as much as her mentality and her fantasy was so, you know, thorough when she was younger, that's when she was a little bit introduced to realism, you know, to see something that wasn't exactly positive, rather negative. And speaking of negative, I feel like the first scene was the first negative, like where the negative tension begins between Raph and Jane while they were having lunch, because he was so distracted on the phone.
Yeah. And I think the distraction, like in life, is a cover up. Like he really didn't want to, he's hurt and he really didn't want to deal with it. And I posted something on my Instagram page today, and it was the 4 Agreements. And the 4 Agreements, if you've ever read that book, is really incredible, because one of the agreements is never take anything personal, don't assume anything. I think the other one was be impeccable with your words and your expectations and what you're realistically wanting, and always do your best. So all of that, like be impeccable with your word.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the one that I was about to reference, because I remember going through an experience in my life that was absolutely difficult, but part of it was in consequence of something that I had said. Yes. And so when I spoke to someone about it to get advice, what she expressed to me is that what's important is that as an adult, and especially when you're trying to communicate with someone else, it is very important for you to say what you mean and mean what you are saying.
Yep. And that's part of and be impeccable with your word. It says speak with integrity, say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others, or use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So all of that, I felt like instead of just having that conversation, like she's harboring the thing that you said no. Jane said no to my proposal, and she wasn't saying no to you and spending the rest of her life with you, Rafael. She was saying no to the proposal.
The process, how it happened.
Yeah, like it was too soon. So,
and you know, I like that also, and it'll actually. Why don't we just talk about like the relationship? So like we'll just start with or whatever. You guys know how we do. We'll bounce back and forth. However, shout out to Giselle Ugarte, who's not here this evening, but y'all know that when it's Madison and I, we go deep. So we're about to go extra deep tonight. But in addition to him being hurt, I also think that it's, you know, and I write that later when they have their actual first argument, that arguing is a means of getting to know each other.
It is.
It's genuinely a means to get to know each other, because it's your first disagreement, because you have a disagreement. So you're learning something about someone. We'll cap on that when we bring that scene back up. But so the next scene, we see him and Petra talking and kind of just interacting, because now they're business partners. Yes. And what I noticed is that you can see that they definitely were in love before. Even her, and I know that we all were so negative about Petra in the beginning. Yes. But at the same time, we were in conflict as far as trying to decide if we liked her or not, because there was something about her that was almost good, and we didn't know she was just so victimized. Yeah. So I think there was definitely love there, and history is history.
Yes. Period. And you can't get rid of it. I did an interview with Daphne Wayans, and she was talking about her relationship with Keenan Ivory Wayans and how they had to untangle things. They had to, she was like, just because the one part of us didn't work didn't mean the totality of them getting married and having kids didn't have to work. I mean, it could still work, you know, just because that one piece was a little off, and they had to figure out, okay, how are we going to be co-parents? How are we going to be friends now that we're not going to be married anymore? Like, how does this work? And so I think with Jane and Ralph, like really getting to know you, getting to know each other. And I think even in friendships too, like people don't really know how to have disagreements. Like once you have a disagreement, that shouldn't mean, if the foundation of that relationship is love, that shouldn't mean that that's the end of it. Like I'm done with you. That's the totality of who you are, and I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I'm going to delete your number. But if the foundation of it is love, and I think that was kind of the thing that Raf was missing. Like she loves you.
Yeah, he was, and I think that it was just hard. It was hard for him to hear that because he misread the situation. And I think that sometimes it's frustrating for a man, and it falls in this, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. It falls in the same category where a man will not be jealous, but can perhaps get frustrated when a woman is so sure of herself.
Yes.
You know, because I think personally that's not something that you see often. Women are,
it's not.
you know, we're, by nature, we flip-flop, we're emotional, we're sentimental human beings. It is what it is.
And don't be pregnant at the same time.
Right, exactly. But she was so certain about it.
Yeah.
And it had to do with him. And so that might have been a little bit intimidating, but at the same time is every reason to love her, because you can also put that in a situation in the future if someone were to try to get at her and she'd be so stern with what she says. She knows what she wants.
Yes.
And she says what she means, and she means what she says.
She means what she says, and she wants to be with Raf. So I think if he'd focused on the relationship versus this is what she did, and then later on we realized that he realizes, like, okay, what's my responsibility? And I think that's the part that people miss in a disagreement or an argument. They miss the part, how am I responsible for the reaction that I got that I don't necessarily like? But the one thing with Jane is that you know she is being truthful.
Right.
You know she's not, like, it's not something that she didn't think about. It's not something that she didn't process. Like, she processed it. Like, she's processed probably the end of their life, you know, together and having grandkids. Like, she's already gone there.
She's planned it.
She's planned it.
She's that type of a person.
Yeah.
I know. And that's the thing, though. And she also said a point. She's like, if you had asked anyone, which was nice to see Rogelio get mad about him not asking his hand in marriage. She's like, if you had asked anyone who knows me would have been able to tell you that.
Yes.
Which can sometimes be offensive, but it's more so, I think, her just letting her know that's all that it was. You just, you know, just take it easy. And like she said, you're just so impulsive.
Yeah.
And not everyone should be impulsive, because that's why the word means what it means. You just act in that moment.
Yes. And the moment, and not thinking about the moment that follows later. So yeah.
You know, so then the two of them have this little tiff, this little moment at their lunch, and then we see Raf with Petra, and then it almost gets nerve-wracking because we're thinking, are these separate relationships are they going to begin to develop? Yeah. So that's kind of scary. But then we see Michael give Jane the workshop paper.
I know. I thought that was really sweet. Like, you could tell that he still really cares about her. And that he held on to that piece of paper until he saw her again. Right,
and he understood that. And like you said, if the foundation was love, and that's why I am a little bit team Michael. I mean, I'm team both. I love them. It is who it is. We'll find out later. But what I like is that if it's there, then he shouldn't be evil. And at the end of the day, you do want to see the person that you love happy.
Yeah.
And if you are fighting for that person, you don't want to be in their, you want to be in their good graces, not in anything bad. But I thought the workshop was very important. Clearly, we see that.
Yes, we clearly see that the workshop is vital for her to get through this process of healing and being disappointed that Raf is not really communicating with her because he's upset because she turned down his proposal. But I think with Jane and Michael, you really see that friendship starting again, which I think is great. But you get the feeling that he's not necessarily over her, but he is in a place. At first,
he's accepting it.
He's accepting it, but at first, I felt like he was in that place where he was more of he saw her more as a possession,
right? Because he did get a little obsessive, but that's out of being hurt, which we see with Raf also. Raf is so hurt, but that could have also just been his ego as well. No, absolutely, I know, and it's crazy. I'm sorry, I started reading my notes.
Okay,
but it's Michael. You see that he's doing the friendship, so that's really nice. And then what's funny is when you see Michael get along with Rogelio, but really I think also it's that everyone's comfortable with the situation now. Time has passed a little bit, so everyone's more focused on themselves rather than what was initially happening. Right. It's like, okay, Jane's pregnant, got it. Right. They're not together anymore, got it. Right. They are together now, got it.
Right.
The dad's here, Got it. So everything else is they're able to expand now on the rest of their lives rather than focusing on these like little things.
Now the question is, do you think that Michael, Raf, and Jane could have a friendship again? Because I kind of see it developing like that, especially because at the end or at the writer's workshop, we see his ex-girlfriend. I knew that's what she was going to be.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
I so knew that. I was
so
like,
did I, because she somewhat reminded me of Jane.
She did.
Yeah.
I totally thought that too. I was like, she reminds me of Jane. Like she has kind of like an innocence about her.
The only reason why I'm scared of that is because it made me feel indifferent. And probably just like territorial or maybe a little bit possessive, but now it's just going to be weird because Jane needs to realize the only reason why it was so easy for her to move on was because subconsciously Michael was there still.
I gotcha. So now that he's not going to be there,
now she will know what it means to not be with Michael.
Yeah, totally.
So that part's different. I mean, and that also jumps ahead, but we'll probably go in circles with all of this, but let's see. Also, and during the workshop, what made me laugh was when she tried to
get a card.
No, she was trying to say, you can come to the hotel. And she's like, the hotel with all the murders?
Yeah,
she's like, well, we don't really like to promote that way, but that part was hilarious.
Yeah,
a nice,
that was very cute.
A sense of like relief. And also, I like that with the workshop, and as far as her writing goes, how sometimes people have to go back to their passion to re-inspire them even in their regular lives, because sometimes I feel like I could be in a funk, you know, living in Los Angeles, being a creative person and trying to create things, and if I can escape, you know, whether it's on the show, you know, talking to my co-host or doing something else in that sense, I'm like, okay, everything else falls into place after that also, because it's their center. So I love how her writing always is it's therapeutic to her, and then she's re-inspired, and her passion just kind of flames again. It starts to burst, and I like that.
I love the part when she was trying to get the card back. She was like, oh no, let me get it. Like she really was trying.
And her sense of urgency is so perfect.
Yes,
I really love Gina Rodriguez's acting.
She is incredible.
She's so good. Yes,
she's really, really good. Yeah. So yes, I love that part. I was like, she's really good with like comedic timing, like her comedy timing when she was doing the massage and she was like, I don't know,
my God.
That you want me to do?
Right? And she's like, right.
I love it. Even putting like the lotion on, she was like, okay, I gotta. Yeah, I love that part.
It was so good.
She's very funny.
So then later, after Raf had that little situation with Rogelio, and then Rogelio brings up the hand in marriage, but Raf is trying to get David Bisbal, a Latin singer, on.
Is he a real Latin singer?
I think so, because his face looks familiar. So
yeah, he's handsome.
But when they try to get him on in that whole dog situation, again, this part made me a little bit nervous because I couldn't help but see the bit of chemistry between a little bit between Petra and Raf, especially because they're better now. And honestly, Petra's her vibes are coming off very nicely also. And especially because now we know she isn't like scared for her life. She can attempt to be a good person. Everyone
can be the person that she was supposed
probably
to be.
Trying to be, right? And you see that you see the comfort that they have between each other. And then I was just worried about the history and how really at the end of the day they were together for so long, and she did leave Lachlan for Raf.
Yes.
They did fall for each other, and then when Raf brought up to her, did you think it was too soon?
Yeah.
And she dropped well, that's because you love family. I'm like, oh no, she does know him.
Yes. But I love, like, even though
Raf's response.
His response was, that's gonna help me with Jane.
Thank God.
Yeah, like I didn't see the chemistry. I saw the friendship. I saw that they were not in love with each other. They love each other. And you could totally
Petra
see
and Raf?
the difference. Yeah.
That they care for each other, right?
They care for each other, but they're not in love. Like, I totally think he's still in love with Jane, and they're just having a moment.
I think that Petra will just have a little sense of jealousy to see someone differently. And I think that what they have in common is their lifestyle.
Yes.
Even though maybe she didn't have the classiest lifestyle, she adapted quickly, but that's also the lifestyle that she wanted.
Yes.
So maybe that's where they have their common grounds.
Yeah.
They come from the same type of background, which does allow them type of friendship.
Yes.
Rather than, this love
and
that
I don't know
maybe
if
once existed.
If they have the same background, or if that's something like I feel.
Well, as far as money goes, I think they have that same visual, but then they also were together for 5 years and lived the same way for that long.
Yes, I gotcha. Yeah, they live the same lifestyle. But Petra strikes me as the person, or her character strikes me as the kind of person where she always wanted that lifestyle, but she didn't really live the lifestyle.
Right.
Or she wanted it because her mother was forcing her and manipulating her to get that lifestyle to take care of mama. So yeah, that's a interesting dynamic between them. But I still just see friendship and nothing else happening. Like, I feel like he is really like, oh, thank you.
I just feel like there'll be more moments, and then I just hope that Petra doesn't fall back again. Because honestly, I could see Petra not even doing anything for the money, more so for him, for companionship.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, she's going to start feeling lonely again. She doesn't have her mother. She doesn't have Lachlan. She doesn't have anybody. So it gets difficult. I don't know. That's going to be weird.
I think Milos is going to come back because he's like part owner. Like, he's the reason why she's at the hotel.
Yep.
So he's going to come back. And I think when something or someone doesn't want you, it makes you want them more, unfortunately. So he's probably going to come back and he realizes how she operates. Like, I've given her one thing that she wants. So I bet you he's going to come back with some chick to try to make her jealous. He's going to play the game. Yeah, I'm sure it'll work. I think they're going to end up together. That's just me. And I love Jane's whole, like, she's such a person where she wants to make things right. So I love just kind of like the whole foundation of her really trying to make things right with a young lady in her writer's workshop and offering the hotel room, and then with Abuela and Diamada, we haven't talked about her yet, but that whole dynamic of her trying to be in the middle, like, no, you're both emotional, like, let's calm down. So really trying to get them to see each other's side. But that was interesting when Abuela just completely like dismissed her, and she said, I didn't think you were serious because you always fly off the handle and you always don't follow through on everything. And that's kind of harsh, right?
But you know what? But that's what I'm gonna say, because what was so crazy, because when she said no seas tan estúpida, I don't know how many times I heard that from my mama.
Really?
Yes. And then and the why buy the cow if you get the milk for free?
I agree.
And mind you, look how Xiomara is a grown ass woman, but it's still being mentioned and it needs to be said that Alba's still trying to like, when are you gonna learn?
Yes.
And that this probably won't work out. The only thing that I will disagree with that, even though my family's very traditional and they believe the same thing,
like the not living together before you get married.
I do think that nowadays, because of how different people can be, it might be something a little bit better, because that we're exposed to so much that we're able to hide but also do more. Yeah. In our private time. And I think that really sometimes it might be a little bit better to make that step just to see how that person is in private.
I gotcha.
Because people really will show their true colors.
I agree. And then living with someone is completely different. Yeah. And I hope and I pray, because I do know someone who's moved in together and it was more of a financial thing. And I don't think they slept together until, like, maybe they did it a couple of times and then they came to the agreement, like, okay,
we can't do that.
Yeah, let's slow this down and let's just live together and be together and then wait till after the marriage. So I'm hoping that's what they're going to do, because I feel like it'll force them to continue to get to know each other. Yes. And to be honest with each other. And then nobody ever wants to know that you moved in with me because I'm your only option. Right. Like, I would hate for that to be the dude, I started dating somebody, and I think my ex-boyfriend told me this one time. He was like, I was dating a girl and she really didn't have a place to live. And he was like, so I never knew if she wanted to be with me or if she just didn't have, didn't have a place to stay. So
I think that definitely can be the case for some people, because they look for comfort and safety, So that's what's most difficult, especially when you have to accept the fact that not everyone is going to be honest. Not everyone is going to be a good person. Yeah. But we do get to see a good side of Michael again today because of his relationship with Rogelio.
I love that.
Which is crazy, but just not surprising. Yeah. Not surprising at all. Right. How much they get along, because they're dorks, Yes. And that whole car scene. And then even when they were at Calle Ocho, he's like, brother, do you want anything to eat? Yes. I was like, oh, damn, he just called him brother. Like, that's a bond right there already. Yeah. And that's the one thing that Michael has on Raf is his manners. Yep. And respect for that culture specifically. Yes. So
that's an interesting point, Steffi G. That's really interesting. I totally agree. Because in order to really love somebody, you have to appreciate the things that come with who they are in their culture. And you're right, Michael does seem to like, it's just because he adores her.
Right.
He adores her, and he was in love with her, so he wanted to know everything about her, like even her, you know, loving to talk and read books. So all of those simple things, and guys don't get it. Like, it really is about the simple things, and it really is about you remembering the simple things about me, and then recalling, and even him holding on to the flyer. Like, I'm sure she was like, you remember. They didn't show that reaction,
right.
But I know she was probably like, wow, he really knows me. But I'm glad she's not comparing that to Raf. Like, she's still giving him an opportunity to, one, get to know her, and the process of getting to know someone takes longer than 5 months.
Yes, and I agree. I'm so happy that they're giving themselves a chance, and they're staying true to their feelings, because really we saw that was a test today. That first argument, that was absolutely a test. And for her to sit there, and for him to sit down and say, you know what, you're right, and it's because I wanted my family, and then for her to be receptive of it, understand it, that's why communication is so important. If you allow it to happen.
Yes.
And they are, fortunately, Raf is fortunate that Jane is such a good woman, and she's so understanding. And Jane is fortunate that Raf has gone through these experiences that he's gone through that made him have to kind of change a man. Like, he didn't really have a choice. And he is being receptive of it, and he is fighting for her. And it was so nice for them to see, to understand that part of each other now. Now they know that they really do just have to communicate a little more, and they now they know their foundation. Yes. His foundation is family. Her foundation is planning and time and respect. And that's gonna help them. Even though in the previews it was like a little sloppy. So
you thought the previews were sloppy?
Well, not sloppy, but I'm saying it almost shows otherwise. But you see, and like Petra and Rafael, my next note was just saying how she makes, like, it makes me nervous though. I don't know why it all made me nervous. It even made me nervous when Michael saw his ex, and when she went in there, she's like, oh, what did she say? 3 years later, she was at the Cayo Chochos. What did she say though?
About him.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
And look where he was. You know, like, for some people that blows my mind. For you can definitely love somebody and feel that way. And you know, she was at the workshop also, so she's probably a romantic also, and liked the same author as Jane. But look where Michael is. Not once. I mean, maybe that was maybe that was the past that they never mentioned before. Maybe maybe they were married already, or maybe. I don't know, like, who knows what that relationship consisted of, or if she broke his heart then, and then now she's in love with, you know, it just could be so many things. That's
interesting. I knew when I saw her, I was like,
I feel like Jane's gonna get jealous. That's why I'm scared. I'm afraid for that tension to happen. I got you. For her to see it, and then for Raf and Petra to their bonds. Like, I see everyone's bonds growing a little more.
So yes, you know, Rogelio and Michael, and then Jane getting jealous of Andy's. Andy, Michael's ex.
Right, and we're gonna see Michael and Andy, and we're gonna see Raf and Petra.
But we saw from the previews for the next 6 episodes, the baby is gonna come.
No, she's babysitting the baby.
Oh, she's babysitting the baby.
That's not hers.
Oh, it's not hers. I was like, oh, because then that'll totally bring them closer.
Oh, right. No.
But I think they're going to actually move in together.
Who?
Raf and Jane.
You think so?
I think so. I think because, like, it would be easy. No, I'm lying.
No, right? Because then she said she wanted to move in after.
After the baby?
Yeah, she wanted, after they're married.
I got
like that she wants her order of things.
Okay. Okay. Because I was going to say, I think it would be easy for me to move in with the guy that I'm engaged to.
Well, you know what scene was kind of nuts too is when she was standing in the salsa part, and the scene where the camera backs out, and then the angle where you see Xiomara, Jane, Rogelio, and Michael. That was crazy to see the 4 of them too, because look how that just falls back into play. It's almost as if they can't escape it, because it's kind of one of those things where when you meet people organically in your life, whether they're your neighbor or they're in the same class with you, you meet that person, and instantly the first thing that you have in common is either that you chose to live in that same neighborhood, or you chose to take that same class. And I think that with Michael and Jane, their foundation is so much alike is that look how it just, they're always around each other because of their what they have genuinely in common.
Yeah. And one thing that we haven't talked about is Jane and Rogelio, when they come together, Jane and Raf, when they come together after he's talked to Rogelio, and Jane, he says to Jane, I'm not going to ask for anything. Like, pretty much, like, he was still harboring those feelings of, I'm not going to ask you for anything. Like, I'm still mad that you turned my proposal down. So I thought that was an interesting dynamic.
But I was so happy that Jane said, but I'm also mad. I'm also mad because I had to say no to you. Of course she'd be mad. Like, you know, it kind of goes both ways. And and for him to have just done that, like, you know, she appreciates the gesture, but it's one of those things where, like, no, why wouldn't you think that? What if I did say no?
Right.
Or, you know, just to not make the assumption, and then just for that conflict to have happened, and because I think it probably bothers her that she had to say no from a proposal from him. It's not like she doesn't want it, but just not then, not that bad way. Timing. And that's what she said. Yeah, bad timing. I wrote timing is like the last thing I wrote in my notes is timing is everything. And you see how timing is everything because of all of the dynamics of all these couples between Michael and Andy, how she just now came around again, and between Jane and Raf and how they're together, and Petra and Raf, and it all falls into play, and how maybe that's why everything is better now, or that's why things happen the way that they did. But I don't know. Do you see at all any potential of Jane and Raf just becoming friends? No, right? They're because you know what? That's the one thing I think that they wouldn't be able to get over is just always being that much more in love with that person.
Yes. I think this is really how a relationship should go. That's why I love the show, because you see the crush and the instant chemistry that they have when they first met. And now you see them really building a friendship, because again, sex is not there. They're definitely attracted to each other, and he's willing to wait for her just like Michael was. So I can't see them not being together, and I can't see them just being friends, because the friendship should evolve just like a relationship should evolve, and it's easier for it to evolve when both people are being honest. And I reconnected with this guy that lives in Dallas, and he came here, and he was just saying all these wonderful, incredible things, you know, like, oh yeah, I can get married again, oh yeah, I could have one more child, and all of these incredible things. And he was gonna fly back to LA to go on he was like, I want to take you on a real date. And I saw this quote, and it said, it was a Bob Marley quote, and it said, a man, the definition of a coward is a man who invokes or inspires love without the willingness to love her. I was like, that's so good. Because he got me, like, I didn't even anticipate, this is my story, y'all, but I didn't anticipate, like, I was just going to be like, hey, how you doing? And we know each other for a long time. But I was like, it's such a sad thing. Like, he didn't even have to go there. But I think even in their friendship, when it starts the right way and the foundation is built on trust and friendship, then it's easier for it to continue to grow, because you're finding out different things about the person.
Yes, of course. Can I go back on the quote though? You mean as if like a coward would be a man who leads on.
Yes,
essentially.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And that's exactly what he did. And my guy friend, he was like, no, don't ever talk to him again. And I was like,
yeah, no, I agree. And you know, falling back to timing, it is good that they've. Timing for me is starting to work on this show. Yeah, hold on. Let me read this quote real quick for y'all.
Exact quote.
Yeah, the biggest coward is a man who awakens a woman's love with no intention of loving her.
Yeah. Bob Marley.
Shoot, that ain't lying.
Isn't that good?
Bob, yeah, and that's why he's
Bob
like, that's
Marley.
why peace is associated with him, because he really is just trying to be an influential person.
Yep.
And ultimately, like one of my friends used to always say, if you don't have any other ambitions in your life, if you don't have any other goals in your life, and the only thing that you want to be in life is good, then that's okay. That's enough.
Yeah, that is
because
enough.
Ultimately, like I'm a humanitarian. I love humanity. I love people, and that's why I always try to set a good example, regardless of it being seen, just so that people know that it exists. You know, like that's why it was so amazing to have met the staff on this show, the cast on this show, and you know, to hear Anthony's words and Andrea's words and Nadine's, and we haven't even spoken to Yvonne, but the way that she portrays herself on the show, and just everyone else, because it exists. And look at how prosperous they're being, and I think it's all for a reason, and it's all timing.
Yes,
it's all timing.
Timing, definitely.
But I was gonna say that Jane is so lucky for her to have met Raph, to have sparked that initial interest, and then for it to have not happened because he needed to go through cancer. He needed to go through those experiences to be able to be the man that he is now. So that's awesome to see that Jane is ultimately kind of getting what she deserves as a woman because of how good she's been in her life. God, this show though.
I know. I'm like, I wish it were real life.
So I know, me too.
I'm like, can't it just happen like that in real life? Because I'm really contemplating. I told my mom the other day, I was like, I don't know if I want to wait till I get married. But that's a whole other conversation.
Oh, that is a whole other conversation.
It is, right? It is. It totally is. I just,
I mean, I think ultimately for anybody, it's when you're okay. Because even if Jane decided to not do it, it's
or do it,
or that's what I'm saying. I mean, or even if Jane decided to do it,
right?
It all has to do with like who you are in your life, because you can't. I mean, I'm sure she's thinking of it more of a religious aspect.
Yes.
So that's why it is important.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about it as far as being a person and just only being able to identify not with religion but with life, then as long as you know that you're making a good decision because you thought it out and because you've spent time with this person and because in your heart it feels right, then okay, then that's all right. As long and hopefully everything kind of turns out good after that, rather than just fall apart and then you're like, oh no, I knew I shouldn't have done it.
Right. And I totally, like, it wouldn't be some haphazard, like, oh yeah, you're just hot, I'm hot, let's be hot together, naked, rolling around.
Right.
It wouldn't be that. It would really be somebody that I actually trust, and it may be somebody that I actually know and I already trust them. That kind of thing. Like, that's interesting. I'm excited for the progression of the show, because it really does show a real loving relationship, friendship, and the way there are going to be uncomfortable moments. And I think we're so, like, everything is so pretty in life. We like looking at pretty pictures on Pinterest. We like looking at selfies on Instagram, and everything is, this aesthetically pleasing thing. And so we like to have aesthetically pleasing conversations and politically correct things to say. That sometimes the truth is hurtful and people don't like the truth, but when you stand in your truth, you have no
fear.
Yeah, there's no fear, but you can only respect me because I'm willing to tell the truth. But when you tell the truth, sometimes it is offensive to people if everybody lives in this kind of facade.
Right, because the truth hurts. Well, this is I think the issue that I found with California, or excuse me, with the West Coast versus the East Coast. The East Coast has this traditionalism where people are very forward and people are very aggressive, and then some West Coast people see it as they're rude, see it as rude or courtesy, whereas they could see the same thing over here. For us, like East Coast people are, or they don't. It doesn't really have to be general coast, but there's general people, types of people.
Right.
The people who are like, no, you shouldn't say that. That's whatever. But then what happens? Rude. It just develops it.
Yep.
Whereas if I'm gonna just tell you right away, I don't like this, or if I'm very forward, you can tell me that was hurtful, and all that I could say is I apologize for hurting you, but not for the comment that I made. Because I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, and not for telling the truth, whatever your truth is.
And now we won't ever have an issue because you know where I'm coming from. You know where I stand. And at that point, if I was honest with you then, I'm going to be honest with you with everything else.
Absolutely. But that's a hard thing for people to take, because even my mom sometimes, she's like, are you going to say that? I'm like, yes, I absolutely am going to say it, and I'm going to try my best to say it in love. And even my best friend, like, she told me something about a video, and she was like, you're not really being truthful. And I was like, you're right. She was like, what you really wanted to say was X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, you're right, but I said A, B, and C because I hear my mom in the back of my head. Right. She grew up in the South, and you don't say things to hurt people's feelings.
Right, of course. I mean, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But at the same time, there's a time and place for everything.
Absolutely.
So I think that everyone should just see it more as that, the same way that we have to choose our battles. And then I think everyone knows that if it needs to be said, it should be said.
Absolutely. But I think it's the way that you say it, because a young man that I interviewed, he was like, it's not always what you say, but it's how you say it. And that makes a huge difference. And when we're looking at Jane and Ralph, like, Jane is so uber honest with everything in her life. And I think it is because she's planned this, what she felt like was a perfect life.
Right.
And a life that she's really tried to, be as excellent as she could in all things. So I think when you're looking at someone like Jane and her character, she is impeccable with her words. So her honesty comes across because she is a very loving person, and like you said, you know, having a love for humanity and people, she definitely has that. And
what is also like evident here is that's the beauty of education. If you're educated and you know, she's a writer, so she knows words are her life.
Yes.
It's what she does.
Yes.
But notice how, like, when people try to underestimate, you know, communication, the reason why it's important is so that things like this don't happen.
Yes.
So that ignorance doesn't get in the way of something petty. And that's why I like this show, because even though this is Jane the Virgin is an homage to a telenovela that's in Venezuela, and it is corny in the sense where it's like, oh, you know, fakely, you know what I mean, accidentally inseminated. But mind you, that was the only thing on the show that's just what started. Yeah. That was just what introduced us to this life. And regardless of that, everything else that's been happening has been, I feel like it's pretty real. It's pretty organic. And I think that's the only reason why I got so nervous, and like literally my heart was pounding every time I saw the interaction between these two people, because it wasn't a huge reaction. I know that they were just taking care of a dog, but it's still time being spent together. These are still things that happen in real life. That's how relationships develop, is when you're not thinking about it, when you're just working alongside together. And you have little moments, or you have a little triumph, like finding a dog. Or you have a little triumph, like, meeting at the same sandwich place.
Or we lost the dog.
Together. You know, it's just, it's ultimately kind of building memories together. And
she kind of says that, doesn't she? She says that in one of the scenes, Jane. It's like, she talks about the intimate moments, like this is what it's about.
The narrator says that. It's the little, it's the little things. Anthony! Man, I know. Yeah. And by the way, every time during the show, when I just hearing him, all I could imagine was his movements while he was doing it, and like how effing perfect it is. Yeah. You know, it really does kind of put me into the show, and it does. It sets the mood, it sets the tone, and it allows us to understand it better, because it's like reading a book. Yeah. You know, having the narrator to see we need the side commentary.
And I love that at the end, like they come to that conclusion, like we just need to be honest with each other. We need to really tell our truth and be in the moment. And I love that she said, because I have this issue with people, and my friend was like, you know what, Madison, people just text people. And I'm like, I don't like it. Like, I'm old fashioned. So call me. Right. Especially if it's important and you value our friendship, and you know that's the way I like to communicate. Absolutely. Like there's this guy that I was kind of seeing that lived in DC, and he said something like, oh, well, I call you all the time. And I was like, yeah, but you're never present. Right. Like I could tell, and my mom is the worst, because she'll be like, are you reading the email? What are you doing? Like, she could tell that I'm not totally focused on the conversation. So I was like, I don't want you to just check the box and say, oh yeah, I called Madison. But if you're not present in the conversation, don't even call me. Or don't call me when it's like, oh, you're getting ready to go to bed and you're super tired. What's the point? Right.
Jane, I don't want to. That's what I like about her, is that, for instance, like for anything that she feels like that, she demands it. I mean, I don't want to say demands it, because she's not aggressive about it. Yeah. But she does it with such an elegance. You know, she demands it because she's not influential. She's a strong person. Yes, she is. Her persona is just so set in stone, and it's very rare to see that in a young woman. And so again, this is one of the very many things that makes Jane seem so, you know, perfect. So that's why she's put on a pedestal. Because of the way that she is. And it's very important for people to not shy away from how they feel. Absolutely. You know, all she's been doing is being honest and just telling everyone how she feels, and she's so sorry. And even if it makes you cry, that's another thing though. Even if it's hurtful, it doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Yep. Totally. And if it totally doesn't agree with what everybody else says about you, then I'm not the person, because I have this other young lady that I know, and you know, all these people around her. She was like, Madison, you're the only person that says this thing about me. And I was like, just because that is how I perceive you and nobody else perceives you like that, I'm just willing to tell you what I see about you. Like, I love you, but this is my truth, and it's okay. If I totally don't agree with anybody, I'm not coming from a place where I'm trying to hurt your feelings. Absolutely. this is what I see. And so when people don't always agree with how they perceive it, so I'm like, everybody needs that one person in their life where you're willing to take constructive criticism because you know it's coming from a place of love.
Yes. I feel bad for Xiomara because of that. Because the thing with her character is that I would be frustrated if I was her to constantly. I think Xiomara is growing to be such an incredible character, but she's constantly getting this flack from her daughter mom. And her grandma.
Yeah, that's true.
Where it's at the same time, she's grown and let her live her life. She's made her mistakes.
Yep.
But look at the woman that she is. She didn't have a second child. She was still there for her daughter, and they shouldn't rob her from the same way that Jane is in fantasy and whatever. They shouldn't rob her from her spontaneity.
Yes,
for
and being a dreamer.
For being a dreamer and her like freedom, her freeness.
Yes.
So
that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Rogelio will be able to bring out of her, and if he'll be able to help her grow, or if this whole moving in together will just be a disaster, or if they'll be able to communicate the way that Jane and Raph are, and that it'll be able to work.
I hope it works, and I hope they really try to do what Jane and Raph are doing, which is really trying to be honest. And I think in previous episodes where Jane and Xiomara had the conversation about, just tell them, like she made Rogelio and Xiomara sit down and say, okay, what are you thinking? Okay, say it. What are you thinking? Nope, that's not what you're thinking. Say what you really think. And I call it the Love Jones moment. If you've ever seen the movie Love Jones, you got to watch it. It's an incredible love story. But people in the two people, it was Nia Long and Lorenz Tate, and they were both afraid to say what they were really feeling because they were afraid of what the other person's reaction was going to be.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what Xiomara and Rogelio were kind of dealing with. Like, I don't really want to tell her what I'm really thinking because I'm scared about what she might be really thinking. And it might not be on the same page, so I'm just not going to say anything at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just gloss it over with this thing that I think she wants to hear.
I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
And the difficult thing about their specific relationship is that they're both dreamers. They also have a lot in common.
They're
the same type of person.
They are.
They have a sense of naiveness and innocence. Well, not innocence, naiveness.
Yes.
But somewhat charming because they're not jaded.
Yes.
And that's important because they're the ones who are older. They're the ones who have more reason to be jaded than anybody else.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's that's really nice.
Yeah, and I applaud like Xiomara's willingness to, jump back in the boat with somebody that she was in love with who potentially left her.
The father of her child.
The father of her child. So I applaud her because sometimes when you get your feelings hurt, you get jaded.
Right.
You get bitter and you don't want to try it again. So I'm glad that she's willing to, let her walls down and try it again. So I'm happy. I'm happy that they're moving in together. I just don't want them to do it. Not a lot. Maybe, on Fridays.
Right?
Fridays, hump day, maybe.
Wednesdays, I was just going to say.
Yeah, Wednesday, hump day. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah. I think, did we cover everything?
I feel like we did. I mean, the only thing that we didn't cover, I'm just leaving for predictions. So, should we?
Oh, yeah. So, it ends with Jane and Raph on the computer. And so the conversation that they have about, he can't ask his father, which I thought was really sad.
By the way, and finally, that's the intimate moment that they're talking about. Thank God that they've created something together, and this is really important.
Yeah, this is very, very important that he's actually going to look for his
Elena
mom.
Dinos, what was her name? Elena.
Her name was Elena
Delinos or something like that.
I wrote it down, but I obviously can't.
Deniolos, okay.
I said it good?
So we'll see it. I mean, that sounded more Italian, but...
Okay.
Yeah. No, I meant like the last name. I don't think it's a Spanish last name. But no, yeah. So we'll see how that happens. But I'm so happy how non-aggressive their transition from their fight was.
Yes. And that's the way life should be. Like, you should be able to forgive someone, especially when you're moving towards building a life together. Like, you should forgive someone and be willing to get back to the place that you were once at and not harbor those feelings. So I'm glad that they've moved past it And now they're moving on to the next challenge, which is finding his mom.
Yes. And as far as like, again, some of the, whoever's watching from Jane the Virgin also, I just want to say that I really love the blocking of this show.
Yeah.
As far as what you're doing, the movement and everything, because it was a really sweet moment for Jane to grab Raf's hand.
And she kissed it.
Yes. Because you know what? That is 100% a term of endearment, because it's his hand is, it was him. She didn't need it. Like, it wasn't a physical, oh baby. It was just like, I love you. Your person is who I love.
Yes.
And that was really nice to see.
When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's so beautiful. That
was great.
Yeah, that was probably like my favorite thing.
Right?
Yeah, it's such an intimate, like personal.
Yes.
Like, I adore you beyond I love you.
Yes, exactly. I know. All right, should we go to predictions?
Yes. What are your predictions?
My predictions, well, because the whole catching of the guy, in the investigation, the Tony Vaughn or the something Vaughn, I guess that we're gonna see that come into play, because I don't even know. I couldn't even pay attention to that to even know what's gonna happen for it. But I don't know. I think that we're gonna get into depth with that. I think that it might have a connection. I'm hoping that one of these things will have a connection with Raf's dad, because at the end of the day, that's really sad. His dad was murdered.
Yeah,
and he didn't know. He didn't get to say bye, and he's in the hotel under concrete. That's awful.
But do they know where he is?
No, he's under concrete.
Oh wow.
Why would he ever be found? Unless there was plumbing there and they had to break it through for something.
His sister Luisa got the note from.
No, nothing. No, she doesn't know.
From Sin Rostro saying your dad is
in
where.
Code. Yeah, but it wasn't literal.
Oh, okay.
It had nothing to do with a hint or anything like that.
Okay,
it was just it was using like a metaphor.
I gotcha.
Yeah. But I don't know. So I think that we'll see that, and then I'm just really excited to see Andy and Michael's. I just can't tell if Andy is gonna be cuckoo or not.
Now, why would you think she'd be cuckoo?
I don't know. Just the whole, she's allowed to be in love with someone after 3 years, but her face
looks crazy.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see, because we only know a little bit of her, because she came in kind of in a hostile, with hostile vibes, if you will. And then Michael was happy to see her, but at the same time, I feel like the second he saw her, you could tell instantly he thought about everything that happened between them.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's some good acting. Brett Dyer.
Right, if that's what I got from it.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I didn't get that.
Well, I look into things.
Yeah, no, totally. I saw that he was happy to see her. I saw that. But I'm curious to kind of see
what happened between them. What was
happened?
It?
Yeah, what was it that broke them up, and why were they not together? And we saw Jane and Michael's backstory and how they actually met. With her, what birthday was that for her? Was it her 21st?
Yes.
It was her 21st, and so he was a police officer. Yeah, that's always interesting how people actually meet in their first stories.
I want to see the connection of how Andy and Michael ended. The transition between Andy and Jane. That's what I meant to say. That's what I'm excited to see.
I want to see that transition.
Also, to see how much Jane panics when she thinks that she isn't going to be a good mother.
Yeah, that control freak. Yeah,
because we saw it with the babysitting situation for next week. So
I know I am with my puppy. I'm like, ooh, and my friend just had babies, and so I'm just kind of like, I was like, wait till they get like a month old, and then I was like, I could come and massage your feet, but I'm not ready to hold the little babies. When they're like a couple of weeks old. I don't know.
Really? Oh my God, I love it.
No, I do. I totally I've always loved kids. Absolutely, from day one. Like, I was babysitting when I was probably like 12.
Yeah, likewise.
Because I love kids, but yeah, I'm like, I'm just a little nervous because they're so
fragile.
Yeah,
but
fragile.
It is quite frightening. I feel
so I'm not ready for that. But yes, so
okie dokie.
Those are our predictions.
Yeah. I mean,
wait, is there it said the next episode?
Oh yeah, so we're not going to see it till April 6th.
April 6th.
I believe it's April 6th.
Oh, I wrote it down. Is that right?
It's in my emails. Regardless, I mean, everyone definitely tweet at us and talk to it. Well, I guess we'll have another discussion board after when this show posts up, whether it's tonight or tomorrow. But we're excited to hear what you think, because this episode was truly
Incredible.
Yeah, and it really got to me. And I mean, it just goes to show you with the character development that it's just going to continue to be that way. But we are going to be back here April 6th, everybody.
April 6th. Yes. I'm going to miss you, Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm going to miss you too.
And Giselle Ugarte will be back. She'll be back.
Tweet at all of us. So y'all can tweet at me at Stephanie Giorgi and on Instagram at SteffiG47. Bye. Or, sorry.
And I'm on Twitter at Madison Chase Fit. And then my YouTube page is at Madison Chase Fitness. I actually changed it, so if you type that in. And then my Instagram page is Madison Chase Fitness, too. So, yes, leave us questions. And so I think Jill Bauer, she talked a lot about on YouTube page, Parallel Choices. Parallel
Choices. We have our regulars. We know who you are. We've given y'all shout-outs.
Tennessee,
you know that we'll be having further discussions with you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, you guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.